You're scrolling through social media, and there it is, another perfect photo family. Perfect kids, perfect smiles, perfect life, and something inside you breaks a little more. Maybe it's your sister's Facebook, her post about her daughter's college graduation that's perfect, while you're trying to figure out which jail your son's in. Or perhaps it's that Christmas card from church friends, their family all color coordinating and beaming, while you can't remember the last time your whole family was even in the same room. Welcome to Warfare Parenting, faith driven strategies for struggling parents of teens and adult children. I'm your host, Laine Lawson Craft. You're in the right place if you're battling with prodigal children, facing family crises, or seeking spiritual guidance in parenting. Today, we'll equip you with powerful biblical strategies to reclaim your child's destiny and restore hope in your family. Let's step into this faith-filled journey of hope and healing together. I'm Laine Lawson Craft, and today on Warfare Parenting, faith-driven strategies for struggling parents of teens and adult children, we are tackling the elephant in the room, that crushing shame that whispers, "You failed as a parent." Man, before we dive into today's conversation with my guest, Jill Savage, Jill, you are an expert at perfection infection. Would you tell them all about your expertise in this?
Yeah, well, I write books from my struggles. So, when I wrote my No More Perfect Moms book, is the first time that I introduced the concept of the perfection infection. And the perfection infection is when we have unrealistic expectations of ourselves and we unfairly compare ourselves to others. And when that happens, we become discontent. We feel like we don't measure up. We feel like there's something wrong with us. And so, oftentimes, what we're doing, as you explained, we look on social media, we see others at church, and they look like they're all together. They look like they've got it all together. And what we're doing in those moments, Laine, is we are comparing our insides to other people's outsides. And when we do that, we come up with wrong conclusions because what we're doing is an unfair comparison. People can look pretty good on the outside and be falling apart on the inside, but we don't know that. We don't know that. So we make assumptions that their life is better because they look better. They look like they've got it all together. And this will rob us of contentment. It will rob us of confidence. And so we have to kick that perfection infection out of our lives because it is causing us and to lose so much joy. It steals the joy from our life. So how do we kick it out? Well, one of the first things that we do is we remind ourselves that we are comparing our insides to other people's outsides. So when we see somebody and they're like put together, we have to immediately say to ourselves, we have to push our thinking in a different direction. And we have to go, she has pain in her life that I'm not aware of. Or she is struggling in some way because we all do. And when we remind ourselves of that truth, it pulls us back from the ledge of comparison and plants us on the firm foundation of reality. This is life is a struggle. And yes, we have seasons that are less struggling than others, but if so, you're just in between struggles. And so that perfection, when we can remind ourselves of the truth that we all struggle, that we all have pain, then that puts us on that even ground. So that's one of the first things that I think is really, really important. The second thing that I like to say is, sometimes we can look back, especially when we're dealing with a child who is wayward. We can look back and be really critical and go, I didn't, I didn't do this well. And every parent can look back and wish they would have handled situations differently. We all can. I write about this in my Empty Nest Full Life book. My Empty Nest Full Life book, one of the things I talk about is what are the things, it's based on the verse in Ecclesiastes that says there's a season for everything and a time to hold on and a time to let go. Well, one of the things we have to let go of is guilt. And the guilt is, I would have done that differently. We need to give ourselves, what I say about that one is give yourself the grace of growth. Yeah, you would have done it differently. You're now 10 years older. You're 5 years older. You're a year past that. And you now have a different perspective. Give yourself the grace of growth and then accept God's forgiveness, accept his grace. And when we know better, we can do better. And so we can do better from this point forward because we now are aware of that.
That is so powerful, Jill. I can remember the days walking into church, and I would just have so much, I guess shame would be the word, because everybody was there with their families, looked so perfect. And I often say about social media, Jill, I wasn't that mother that had the matching outfits, the perfect setting for the Christmas postcards. And again, I felt a little guilt about that, the shame and guilt. I used to say that I never walked away from social media feeling better about myself. I would always feel like the biggest failure as a parent. But, as you said, comparison, I mean, we need to break free from that.
Oh,
I do help me on that. Like, what are some tools for us so we don't get caught in that trap of comparison?
yeah. Well, exactly. And I think that, it's like in social media, we're looking at people's highlight reels. We're not looking at their behind the scene reels. But let me tell you, one of the best ways is to start having more honest conversations. Honesty begets honesty. You know, I've only had two or three times where something I've put on social media goes viral. But let me tell you what one of them was. I had been in and out of traveling for speaking. And every time I'd come home, I wouldn't unpack my suitcase. Instead, I'd take something out and I would put it in a new suitcase. So I had like three suitcases full of clothes, clothes like laying over chairs. I mean, it was a mess. My bedroom was a mess. And I remember like standing in my room looking at it, and it was like a Wednesday night, and I thought, okay, this weekend, I said to my bedroom, this weekend I am declaring war on you, meaning I'm cleaning this up, right? But I caught myself and I went, I'm going to snap a picture. I'm going to snap a picture of this. I'm going to put it on Facebook. And so I did. I snapped a picture. I put it on Facebook. This is what I said. This is my current reality. What's yours? Laine, you would have thought that I just like revealed everything people would have ever want to know. People went nuts. And all of a sudden, people are sharing pictures of the condition of their car, pictures of their kitchen sink, pictures of their child's bedroom, pictures of things they just found under their child's bed that should never be under a child's bed. I mean, it was nuts. People went nuts. All I did is I went first. I shared honestly the real stuff, the not looking good stuff. And people went, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. So I think that's one way we can break that in ourselves, but we can also help to break the perfection infection for others. Is let's start sharing a lot more honestly. And you don't have to put it on Facebook, but when you're sitting down having coffee with a friend, instead of being like, they're like, how's life? And you're like, great, fine. When really there's some struggles. Let's start talking about those struggles. That's going to break the perfection infection.
That is so good. Well, I want to talk about a little bit. Are there warning signs, Jill, to maybe someone today, right now, listening that is when do they need to get help? When is the guilt and the shame enough to go and or warning signs that says, hey, you might need to get some help on this?
Yeah. Well, I think that, God gives us conviction. So conviction is a good thing. It says, I didn't handle that so well. Maybe I can learn from that, or I need to do a U-turn. But the enemy wants to take conviction and push it right into condemnation. I'm a screw up. I can't get it right. I'm not enough. I'm a failure. And those kind of messages are condemnation and those are shame. Those are the heart of toxic shame. Because shame is like not, I feel bad over something I did. Shame says I'm defective because of that. And a lot of us carry that from childhood. Like we carry that from a parent who was hypercritical. We maybe were influenced by a coach or a teacher that didn't share words of encouragement with us. And then sometimes it can just develop, in the difficulties of life. I would say when those kind of messages are what permeates your brain, anything that says I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I'm an idiot, any of those kind of messages, we need help because your shame has crossed the line. You have crossed the line into condemnation, and that's not a healthy place to stay.
And that leads me into identity, Jill. When we, get help if you're at that point, but if you're just struggling, to remember our identity. What I mean by that is that we're God's daughters. I mean, we are mothers that love our children, just reinforcing the positive parts of who we are. Is that a great way to
Oh,
negate that?
yes, absolutely. It is absolutely one of the best ways to negate that and to recognize that. So, some of us need some identity work in our lives. We need to dig into that and we need to recognize that our identity is in the wrong things. It's in how I feel about, my house and my kids. And that's the other thing. When we're dealing with a wayward child, the tendency is for us to make our identity based upon how our child is doing. And when we do that, that is, we're going to get yanked around emotionally by that. That is like building your life on sinking sand. And what we need is the solid rock. So our identity is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow because it's based upon what God says about us. It's not based upon whether our child is doing well or not doing well. And oftentimes that becomes an idol in our lives. Is if our child isn't doing well, we're almost worshiping that, going, there's something wrong with me. What did I do? Instead of recognizing, hey, this is their own struggle. This is their own challenges. My identity is in Christ and it isn't changing.
I love you saying that because I can remember the days, Jill, that I felt like my kids' behaviors were a reflection of my parenting. And that's a big lie of the enemy, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It is a big lie of the enemy, and he will try to whisper that to you. And our children's struggles are their own struggles. And sure, there may be some things that we did that weren't helpful for that journey. We didn't know. Again, that's where we have to give ourselves the grace of growth. If we knew what we know today, we would have handled it differently. Um,
Absolutely.
but but our kids' struggles are their own struggles. It is not a reflection of us.
And there is no perfect house. There is no perfect marriage. There is no perfect, child. Is there, Jill?
There isn't. It was not too long ago that I read a biography of Billy Graham. And, Franklin Graham was a prodigal. And so, I mean, here his father is Billy Graham, like, an incredible man of faith, making a difference in the world. And he's got a kid that's going off the deep end. And so, just a reminder that, many of us deal with this. Many of us deal with this. And all of us deal with struggles. And so, absolutely, we cannot find our identity in our kids' struggles.
Well, Jill, before we leave, would you please give us your resources again? Because I know today many are being right now released from shame or guilt or failed parent syndrome. Could you give us those resources one more time?
Yeah. So if you need some truth to battle the lies, go to jillsavage.org/truth. And I have 25 scriptures for when life is hard. But my books, Empty Nest Full Life, and then my No More Perfect books, No More Perfect Moms, No More Perfect Kids, and No More Perfect Marriages.
So good, Jill. Thank you so much. And as we finish today, again, I want to speak directly to a parent who's been listening. And maybe you have tears, maybe you've been nodding on every word. You're not alone in this battle. You are not wearing a scarlet letter, and your worth isn't measured by your children's choices. Remember what Jill shared with us today. Behind every quote, perfect social media post is a family fighting for their own battles. Your journey isn't meant to look like anyone else's, and God isn't finished writing your family's story. So, again, if you need to take a step, maybe in place some boundaries around your social media use, or maybe just finally sharing your struggle with a trusted friend. Your vulnerability could be the key that unlocks another person's prison of shame. So, to quote this truth we started with, your child's choices do not define you or your worth as a parent. You are deeply loved, fully seen, and completely valued by God, who specializes in redemption stories. Thank you for joining us on Warfare Parenting. Remember, you can overcome even the most challenging parenting battles with faith and the right strategies. If this episode has touched your heart or provided valuable insights, please subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your support helps other struggling parents find the hope and guidance they need. Until next time, remain steadfast in faith and remember, together we never give up on our families. Visit my website too for my new book, Warfare Parenting, a daily battle plan to fight for your child. The first 10 days are free on my website and many other free resources. Go to LaineLawsonCraft.com.